For years, I've kept certain elements of my truth locked up in fear of judgment, ridicule, misunderstanding, and judgment. It's as though my most vital organ, my heart, had been wrapped in chains, binding my being from fully flourishing and fully flowing. This is how it feels for me to not live in authenticity and basically be one of those fake people on social media. I stand in appreciation of everybody willing to watch this video, if not in full, at least in part, opening yourself up to my truth, my radiating vibration, whose expression will set me free, bringing me closer to my own inner standing and making me and I one. The thoughts I plan on sharing today have been with me for years, and it is today that I've decided to finally be a fully authentic person. It took years for me to get to this point, but here I am, flowing in synchronicity with truth. My truth. For years, I thought my perspective on animal rights, empathy, compassion, stewardship of life, love, was a burden to the progression being made on behalf of animals. It has become clear to me that directly advocating for animal rights is actually not in favor of animal rights. My earliest attempts to share this perspective with my inner vegan community were met with swift rejection and ridicule, convincing me that I was wrong to think that advocating for animal rights is not in favor of animal rights. Today, I stand more confident than ever in this position. The truth is, I don't blame the people who doubted my perspective, for we are all human, fallible, and possess minds shaped by the infinite wisdom that is nature's periphery. A periphery that many will never be granted internal access to. I'm here to say that I have been granted access, and what I see now is pulchritudinous. It is a truth incompatible with the vegan philosophy that all things, all sentient life, must exist in perpetuity and synchronicity, acting as one symbiotic one and many. We're growing, evolving, devolving, evolving, and I've discovered that fear is not only an instrument of terror, but an instrument of growth and closeness to the essence we all seek. Today is the day I take responsibility for my own fear and become grateful for the sequence of lived experiences loaded with lessons and losses. I've reflected deep on the deep power ideologies can have on our mind and souls, in some cases compelling us to exchange our free will for acceptance, belonging, and virtuousness, sliding into a predetermined set of rules that does the thinking for us. For example, we should not stab animals for a cheeseburger. I see now that free will stripping rules like this one have no place in a world where my soul identifies with zero labels, categories, classifications, groupings, brackets, types, varieties, or even species. The truth is that I became trapped by my own making, and it took me years to remember that I'm capable of moving. More specifically, moving away from limiting and reductionist ideologies that don't allow me to support farms that profit off of the manipulated reproductive systems of specific members of the kingdom Animalia. For some time, I was convinced of the notion that in order to advocate for animals, I must adhere to the pillars of veganism to the absolute maximum order. But now I see that viewing animals as resources and directly supporting businesses who profit off of their exploitation is in line with the lifestyle which seeks to advocate for the rights of animals. I was convinced that veganism was the highest form of care for animals, but now I see that directly advocating for animal rights is not the highest form of care for animals. Instead, supporting farms that profit off of their manipulated reproductive organs is. And throughout this process of life, even as a child, I've had this overflowing love for animals. During family gatherings, I was the annoying little child who refused to step on ant piles. From such a young age, I was filled with empathy for animals and still am to this day. This love quickly started to permeate into other areas of my life too. Through animals, I learned to love myself, all other life, and remember that Earth is a living, breathing, and sentient being. Our inspiration for the love that is life is giving and sharing and spinning and twirling in the void that is this wonder we call Earth. Animals are our companions, and they look to us for care and love. And now I see that my perspective is not one I need to apologize for, as it is one of many encompassing a movement based in the combination of so many uniquely molded minds and souls, all on a journey to generate direct compassion for sentient beings. And I don't want to wait another second to express my hard truth that I've been sent here to share with the world. This video is an act of my reclamation of what is truly me and life. And regardless of who is in support of my new expression and vibration, I am rooting for little Danny, who once dreamed to share their love for the natural world. For example, supporting businesses who profit off of hens whose reproductive organs have been so artificially manipulated by humans that they produce eggs for me at an extremely taxing and uncomfortable rate. Eggs are round, and so is Earth. And with this parallel, I recognize the sanctity of each egg rapidly passing through a hen, causing them suffering while causing me to have scrambled eggs in the morning. I've been removing the shackles of fear in all areas of my life for a while now, freeing myself from fear and from being afraid of fear, in fear that one day I may never be afraid again of fear. The last few years of my life have made it impossible to be anything other than me, and that is what is important. Being yourself truly is always a positive thing to work toward. It doesn't matter what structure your inner you takes, as long as it is you, it is good. Jeffrey Dahmer died acting as his true self. I find this valuable because he was living in his truth. I can't possibly think of a time where somebody acted as their true self and there was a problem. And with this search coming to an unsatisfied end, I am filled with immense joy and excitement to release myself from years of shackling myself from commodifying animals and no longer being in support of their right to not be commodified. And even more, when I think of my future children, I hope that I can facilitate their embarking on a journey leading them also to the conclusion that one can be in support of animal rights while directly violating them. I know that this video will come with a series of disagreement, judgment, and maybe even attempts at cancellation. To me, all of that has become background noise to the symphony that carries truth. I am welcoming the reality that I cannot control all interpretations of my being. I am welcoming the judgment, the journeys, and the jewels guiding each person's experience on this floating rock we call Earth. I am consciously choosing to spend the remainder of my finite existence on this earth expressing in authenticity and truth. If you stumble across this video, I appreciate you for opening up this fragment of your life to hear me, to understand me, to feel me, to stare at me, and to feel me. The truth is, you can be anywhere right now, and I love it if you continue to stay exactly where you are, listening to my journey. Before I became a vegan or a vegan activist, I was a child who knew the depths of love and others didn't. I was a pretty edgy and wise child. I craved symbiosis, synchronicity, rejuvenation, reciprocity, regrowth, and the blooming of life. This came with a deep instinct to protect and restore life. When I would overhear conversations of people speaking about the insignificance of animal life, I gazed into the eyes of beings suspended from time and space, blurring the lines of separation and merging into one. I eventually uncovered that the vibrational frequency that stems from the northern wavelength is actually derived from the interdimensional beings that guide us from the front and back plane of vibrationally positive frequencies. This omnipresent tap on my shoulder this whisper of another way. I see it as an unsevered cord to a frequency so divine and beyond understanding that challenges the most beautiful of ways our perception is limited, insofar as we can possibly understand understanding. The bountiful earth cries out and beckons us to search and live and give and open ourselves up to the energy that beams down on us from the skies above. Sometimes you have to be the answer to your own question, and I don't mean that in an egotistical way. I'm just trying to say that we come from a creator, we are creation, we can create, and we can create creation by creating. A soft whistle of a world that existed prior is what guides me in this life. I will admit, what we've done to animals is nothing short of an abomination, and that includes creating versions of them that lay eggs seemingly infinitely. And with the knowledge of this abomination, I am going to support farms who take full advantage of this. Many will say there is a spectrum to this reality. There is factory farming, then there is halal and hunting, and all I can say is I've seen this all, and every time I've encountered these accounts of killing, I got that whisper that there is another way. So some of you may be thinking, this all sounds super vegan. Why is this video titled, Why I'm No Longer Vegan? Well, that is the perception that I'm trying to dispel today. That somebody has to be vegan in order to respect animal life to the highest degree possible. The truth is that for a long time, I thought that I had to wear this label indefinitely in order for my love for animals to be validated. And now I know that I don't need that label or labels, so I'm going to be moving on to another label. Veganism is beautiful, and I'm no longer vegan. It was a culmination of many factors that catapulted me into this moment where I've decided to depart from identifying myself with the vegan label. There are many parts of the philosophy I agree with, but also parts that conflict with my heart and my truth. The thing is, the moral philosophy that is veganism is limiting. The label only seeks to describe a specific subset of moral beliefs championed by specific people. It says nothing about the other parts of me that I wish to express. For example, environmentalism. I care so deeply for the environment, but veganism is specifically about animal rights, so I can no longer be vegan. Even though I am aware that veganism and environmentalism are not mutually exclusive, I dislike that categories are, by definition, limiting. I now live by the category infinity, as my true self knows no bound, and is to be limited by no label. I am infinity, I am earth, I am all. I'm literally you. Another part of the vegan ideology that my heart and truth conflicts with is the fact that veganism puts animals at the epicenter. And I resonate more deeply with the philosophy that creates a synergistic and symbiotic relationship to the mind, body, and soul of the earth and all beings on it. Here's an example of this synergistic process in practice. When I go ahead and purchase eggs from a farm who uses laying hens whose mind, body, and soul has been manipulated by humans to lay a large amount of eggs. In this scenario, a laying hen loses a disproportionate amount of nutrients from constantly laying eggs while a human profits from it. This is synergy. Another example of synergy and symbiosis stemming from this process is the mystery of where this farm buys their laying hens from to begin with. If it's a breeder, what does the breeder do with the male baby chicks? Are they ground up and suffocated alive because they are useless to this synergy? We don't know. But if that were the case, this would certainly be synergistic. I don't want to use a label to define who I am. I just am. I am. My new label is am. Veganism also doesn't define my why. There are other things I care about outside of veganism that veganism doesn't even purport to discuss, which we pretty much all know. So basically, because veganism isn't defined as everything that I am, I can't be vegan anymore. Similar to how the label of being pro-human rights doesn't define everything about me, and therefore I can no longer identify as pro-human rights. There's also corporate veganism, which I would like to discuss briefly. A lot of the vegan processed products just aren't natural. I don't worry about laying hens also being unnatural, but those vegan meat products are just so processed and unnatural. And if something is processed, it is by definition unhealthy. Why? Because I use the word process in a way that sounds scary, so now the food is unhealthy. If you look at the ingredients list and you're too ignorant to understand what it is you're reading, the food will be unhealthy. Improving your reading comprehension actually makes it so that an ingredient you previously did not understand, but now do understand, becomes healthy. This is how nutrition science works. We can forget about the fact that the components that make up foods like eggs and meat also are represented by words most of us do not fully understand. Because why not? We need not worry about health outcome data when it comes to the health outcomes and nutrition science of vegan processed foods. Just look at a food, accept that it is processed, see what your emotions do, and determine that the food is by default unhealthy. This is how nutrition scientists are approaching how to determine whether or not a food is unhealthy nowadays, and it is working wonders with respect to determining the health value of certain foods. So guys, I really hope that you understand why I'm no longer vegan. The feelings that I get in my feelings and their vibrational frequency and positive and negative energy in the wavelength of my interdimensional hearing really just points me toward this omnipresent knowledge and wisdom that provokes me and compels me to no longer identify with the vegan label, as doing so doesn't necessitate myself being the authentic self that I wish to be, that represents my truth, my being, my earth, my life. And that is really just all I want to say today, guys. And I hope none of that was increasingly or very convoluted or anything like that. I think that what I've said so far makes sense. Thank you so much for listening to my journey. If you support my work and want to get early access to it, you can click the link in the pinned comment and support me on Patreon and help me pay for more eggs and other animal products that I'll probably start to consume as time goes on, including KFC when no one's looking. Who knows? Once again, thank you everybody for watching, for listening, and for just being here on this crazy thing we call life. And I will see you in the next video.
Dude,
fuck off. I don't want anything to do with you. Don't ever speak to me again. You're a fucking piece of shit.
Even vegans don't get your weird, stupid wannabe sense of irony here. Who is your audience? Nobody gets these dumb jokes. Dude,